And we are back. We're talking to Sue Bingham, co-author of Creating the High Performance Workplace. And I have to say, as I said earlier, Sue's book, it seems to be a history of my business, High Fly Virginia Beach Indoor Skydiving, and the way our team members have come and gone and evolved. Now, turnover is something that leaders of any organization should strive to avoid. They don't all strive to avoid that. In my case, I have a largely 20-something workforce. And, I don't want them to do this for the rest of their lives. I want them to go on and do great things. And that goes to my definition of leadership, which is enabling others to accomplish their objectives. Now, 90% of that is related to ROI within the business, but they might have, and they should have, objectives outside of this organization. And as a leader, I want to help them achieve those objectives. Go to school, get a degree, go get a real high-paying job, flourish, become an entrepreneur, whatever that is. So that's kind of how I approach leadership in one aspect. But there's those 5%, Sue, that they're punching the clock, so to speak, and they're who these volumes of HR manuals are written for. What do we do about that? How do we avoid it? How do we deal with it?
The avoid is easy. One of the things that we advocate is peer hiring teams. Leave management out of it when it comes to the front line.
That's brilliant, but I can see the rejection from managers, but that's a brilliant concept.
Well, they do reject it, and so but if you let the team do it, first of all, if you ask a supervisor or manager, what is it you're looking for in a person? They're looking for someone that's reliable, that's probably got a good attendance record if they can find that out, that hasn't done a lot of job hopping, that's got some related experience. That's what they're looking for. You ask a team of people, what attributes are you looking for in the guy working next to you, the person working next to you? They'll give you a list of 25 traits, which include likes to have fun, learns quick, got my back, helps others, proactive. I mean, they'll have a big, long, trustworthy.
For sure.
So they make a big, long list of those. Well, what we do is we'll take those, and these, by the way, are your top employees. You pick your top employees to do this. You put them through a little bit of training, not a lot. We don't emphasize a lot of the legal stuff and so on, which is what HR is worried about. What we do is say to these folks, here's how to do behaviorally based interviewing. You don't want to ask what would you do if, you want to say, tell me about a time when. And as a group, you're going to interview them as 5 people. You're going to interview them, and at the end of that, you need to reach consensus on either hire or not. And they have to reach consensus, which doesn't mean everybody loves a person, but they're willing to live with it. They believe enough in what the other people say, or not. And typically, this group will reject at least 1 or 2 out of 3 or 4 people that HR sends.
50%. They'll reject 50% roughly.
Yeah. Because they're looking for people like them. They're looking for people who are loyal and hardworking, and so they're looking for that. And then they take a personal interest in making sure that person succeeds. And they can smell a 5%er so much better than a manager can. I mean, they just can. They can spot it. They can see it.
Of course.
They quickly rule that person out. And they've just got a better BS meter than the desperate supervisor who's trying to fill a job.
Yeah, right. And I believe me, I get that, because amongst my various departments, it's like, how quick can we get somebody in there? We've had those scenarios a few times.
Yeah. No, and it's understandable. I get it. And you could be getting a 5, somebody who really doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's how you keep them out. You keep them out by interviewing for traits, for character.
Moral and ethical character. Yeah.
Yes, because you can train them to do the job at an entry level.
What if they made it through?
If they made
you got to deal with it.
And they do. Then what we do is a very unique approach to what the progressive discipline is. If you look at anybody that's got the progressive disciplinary steps, you'll see the file that HR has on them is an inch thick. And that's because it's all worded in such a way that if you do something that doesn't meet a particular standard or rule, then you get a verbal warning, and then you could get a written warning, but then you could do something different, or you might have an attendance problem, and on and on and on. And these guys use the rule book like it's a playbook.
Hmm.
I mean, they know exactly, how much to do and when to clean up their act and how to stay
Yeah,
ahead.
they use the rule book against you.
They use the rule book against you, whereas your 95 percenters don't even know what's in the rule book.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
don't even know. So these 5 percenters do that. Well, the discipline step just prolongs the amount of time you have to have them. So what we do is have an initial conversation and we say, here's what you did, here's the impact, what's going on? And we probe for what's going on. What caused that behavior or that lack of performance? And people can show up 3 ways. They can be very accountable, they can be collaborative, and they can say,
They can own it.
they can own it.
Hmm.
In which case you move to, well, what are you going to do about it? Because
Hmm.
they're an adult, they should be able to solve it. Most cases are like that, not with 5 percenters though.
Right.
5 percenters will typically blame others or you, or they'll have a dozen different excuses,
Uh-huh.
or but they won't be cooperative. They won't take ownership. And when we say to those folks is, listen, I want you to go home, and for the rest of the day, we're going to pay you. Pay's not an issue. We want you to think about whether or not these are expectations you can meet, and this is a job you want. And if it is, I'd like you to come back with a written plan of how you're going to correct or prevent these things from happening again, along with, a sincere commitment or not. If it's not something that you think you can do or want to do, just tell us and we'll effect a separation. Well, now you're not steps. Now this person has a choice. 5 percenters typically either don't show up the next day,
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Most of them aren't going to come back.
they self-select out, which is a quit. It's not even a termination.
Hmm.
Um, or they can resign, or they come back with. I had an example where someone came back with a very insincere statement,
Uh-huh.
and I said, this doesn't read to me like you mean this. And he continued to be disrespectful. And when they're disrespectful, you say you need to leave. We'll call you in the morning and let you know if you have a job. So one conversation with a 5 percenter can be the last conversation you have with that 5 percenter.